Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour. Hello again, everyone. After 19 days in Elkhart, Indiana, the parts for our slider were received on Wednesday, October 16th and installed on Thursday, October 17th. After the slider was repaired, I started making phone calls to reserve a campsite at our next stop in Indianapolis, but every place I called said that they didn't have any open sites for Friday, October 18th or Saturday, October 19th. So we ended up staying 2 additional nights in Elkhart. We finally left Elkhart on Sunday, October 20th. The 176-mile drive south was relatively uneventful with light traffic and no wind. Even though this divided 4-lane road looks like the interstate, it is actually State Highway 31 south. As we were driving south, we saw this Amish buggy cross the highway in front of us. But he crossed before we got there and waited patiently for oncoming traffic to clear before continuing across the highway. From here it was approximately another hour south to Indianapolis. It started raining shortly after we arrived in Indianapolis on Sunday and continued to rain all day on Monday, October 21st, so Carol began working on another quilt while I worked out some of the details of our trip to Florida. On Tuesday, October 22nd, Carol and I visited the Indiana State Capitol in Indianapolis. As I said in our last video, Indiana was the 19th state admitted to the Union on December 11, 1816. When Indiana became a state, the territorial capital was located in Corydon, Indiana, near the southern border of Indiana. This territorial capital, constructed in 1813, was a humble 2-story limestone building shown here. In 1824, the Indiana state government was relocated to the Marion County Courthouse in Indianapolis because Indianapolis was more centrally located within the state. But the relocation to Indianapolis was a difficult task. At the time, it was an 11-day journey by horseback from Corydon to Indianapolis. No road existed and a path for the wagons had to be cut through the dense forest as the wagons moved north. Wagons were used because the state treasury, state library, state records, the furniture of the General Assembly, Supreme Court, and the executive offices all had to be moved. It took more than a month to relocate the government to Indianapolis, but the first session of the state government convened in January 1825. In 1831, construction of the new State House in Indianapolis was approved. This Greek Revival building shown here was built of blue limestone and was 2 stories high. The governor and the Supreme Court occupied the lower floor, and the legislature occupied the upper floor, with each house in its own wing. The building was popular after its construction, but by the late 1860s had fallen out of style, and the building's limestone foundation was beginning to fail. In 1867, the ceiling of the House of Representatives chambers collapsed. A debate was held in 1873 about how to preserve the building, but no solution was found. In 1876, the building was condemned. The General Assembly relocated to a large office building that was already housing the state Supreme Court. The governor and his executive staff relocated to another office building. During the legislative session in 1878, after the 3rd state capitol building had been demolished, a new state capitol building was approved and construction began on the same site. This is the 4th and current state capitol building. The inside of the dome that you can see on top of the building is not visible from inside of the building. Instead, this stained glass dome, which is 72 feet in diameter and 105 feet above the floor, is mounted to the ceiling in the center of the rotunda. Above the stained glass dome is a large circular room lined with windows that allow natural light to illuminate the stained glass. 8 9-foot tall Carrara marble statues from Italy surround the rotunda. The executive office suites of the governor, secretary of state, attorney general, state treasurer, and auditor can be found on the 2nd floor. The lieutenant governor has an office on another floor, but I will come back to that later. The governor was out of town, so we were allowed to visit his office. This conference table was built by prison laborers using wood milled from trees removed from the prison property. It is 6 foot wide, 16 feet long, and weighs 900 pounds. As we worked our way up the stairs to the 3rd floor, our tour guide pointed out the marble steps, which had come from an Indiana quarry. She also pointed out several areas where fossils of snails could be seen in the tile. The Indiana State Legislature has offices on the 3rd floor. The Indiana Senate, which is referred to as the Upper House, has their chambers on the west wing of the 3rd floor. There are 50 state senators elected to a 4-year term without term limits. The state's lieutenant governor, whose office is also on the third floor, presides over the Senate while they're in session and votes in the Senate only when there is a tie. The Indiana House of Representatives, which is referred to as the lower house, has their chambers on the east wing of the third floor. There are 100 members in the House of Representatives, elected to a 2-year term without term limits. The Senate, or upper house, was not in session, so we were allowed to enter their chambers with our tour guide. The House of Representatives, or lower house, was not in session either, but committee meetings were being held in this area, so we were not allowed to enter. Our tour ended on the third floor, so Carol and I took the elevator to the fourth floor and then walked around taking pictures of the architecture. On Wednesday, October 23rd, Carol and I visited the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In 1908, an Indiana entrepreneur named Carl Fisher decided to build a 5-mile track that would give car makers a safe place to test and show off their vehicles. He took on 3 partners and bought 320 acres of farmland on the edge of Indianapolis, across the street from his headlight factory. The original plans for Fisher's Motor Parkway called for a 3-mile outer loop and a 2-mile course through the infield, but the plans were quickly redrawn when someone pointed out that such a long track would not fit on the parcel of land unless all of the grandstands along the straightaways were eliminated. As a compromise, Fisher and his construction superintendent decided to build a 2.5-mile banked oval with grandstands on all sides. Instead of the concrete surface that other racecourse builders were using, Fisher covered his track with a sticky mixture of gravel, limestone, tar, and oil. In August 1909, the Indianapolis Speedway was ready to open. The first race, a motorcycle race, on August 13th was a disaster. The new track was so abrasive that it popped everyone's tires. Racing was delayed for a few days while workers sanded down the track so that the event could continue. Even after that, the track was still a mess. On the first day of the first car race, a driver and his mechanic were killed when the car flipped over and bounced into a fence post. Then 3 more people died when a driver shred a tire and went flying into the stands. Fisher agreed to suspend all races at the Indy track until he could put down a safer surface. He decided on bricks because traction tests confirmed that they were less slippery than gravel and sturdier than concrete. In a span of 63 days in the fall of 1909, 3.2 million paving bricks, each weighing 9.5 pounds, were laid on top of the original surface of crushed rock. The first Indianapolis 500 race was held in 1911. This was the car that won that race. The race was 200 times around the 2.5-mile oval track and took 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 8 seconds to complete. Early race cars were normally 2-seaters, so that a mechanic/relief driver could assist if needed, but this car did not have a relief driver. This is the winning car from the 1928 Indianapolis 500. Asphalt was gradually added to various sections of the brick surface, with patches added to rough sections in the turns in 1936. By 1937, all turns had been paved with asphalt. In 1938, the entire track was paved with asphalt except for the middle portion of the front straightaway. In October 1961, the remaining bricks on the front straightaway were covered with asphalt except for a 36-inch strip across the track at the start-finish line, where it remains today as the fabled yard of bricks. In 1994, NASCAR came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Second-year driver Jeff Gordon won the first NASCAR race in Indianapolis. The tradition of kissing the bricks was started by NASCAR champion Dale Jarrett. After his Brickyard 400 victory in 1996, Jared and his crew chief decided to walk out to the start-finish line, kneel and kiss the bricks to pay tribute to the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The entire racing team joined them for a group kiss on the bricks, and an Indianapolis tradition was born that Indianapolis 500 and Brickyard 400 winners have followed since. Carol and I took a 1-hour tour of the Speedway in a small shuttle bus that included a lap around the track and then a stop at the finish line so that we could kiss the bricks if we felt so inclined. One of the safety items pointed out during our lap around the track was the steel and foam energy reduction barrier, or safer barrier, that is installed on the Indy track and on other oval racetracks around the country. It was developed at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska between 1998 and 2002. It absorbs and reduces kinetic energy during a high-speed impact, lessening injuries sustained to drivers and spectators. This barrier was installed on the Indianapolis track in 2002 and then nearly every oval track on the NASCAR circuit by 2005. Well, this video is going longer than expected, so I'm going to wrap this up and get it uploaded so that we can get ready to leave Indianapolis in the morning. We are on a slightly compressed schedule after the long wait in Elkhart, so Indianapolis will be our last stop in Indiana. Indiana is the 29th state that Carol and I have visited together. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and as always, feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching.